Hello everybody and welcome back to Capitalism, where we are apparently capitalizing on things. And it is of course absolutely wonderful. We are not at war and that's exactly what we want. So at this point, I want to check in on our fiscal year. 43 days on that. Okay, we definitely want to continue to funnel industry to Pakistan, and we want to continue to purchase the world at this point. That is our primary goal. So what I want to do right now is I want to get a factory being built in Kuwait. There we go. And that looks good at this point. So now my question is, how much of this is actually being built? Okay. That's solid. That is very solid. So that means that all of our factories are being worked on. Okay. Very, very good. That's what we want to see. So next what we want to do is, well, we want to buy London, and actually, it looks like that's available. We should try it. Let's see what happens here. We've now got this isolated, so if we can get London, that would be huge. They gave it to us. Okay, so the UK gave us London after we isolated it. That probably means that they calculated that that's going to be difficult for them to defend. That's great. That's very, very good. So we now want to extend our front line all the way out to here, I guess. And we want to continue to take territory over here. But we can now put an end to the taxes for good. So we want to go all the way up over, where is it? Here we go. This will remove our taxes. That's a huge deal. Okay. So, this is now completed. Excellent. No event popped up for that? Interesting. Well, at this point, it should not matter. So let's take a look at our civilian factory count. Consumer goods factories down to 10%. That's the minimum amount. So the question is, how many could we core theoretically? Well, we don't actually care. And the reason why is because we're not working on coring. Our political power, we have a lot of things we want to do with it. That includes coring, that includes buying new territory, that includes annexing vassals. And we can't do all of it. So I'm prioritizing buying territory at this moment. So that's absolutely wonderful. If we check up over here, we can see we can't quite ask about this territory again, but the fact that we were given all of this, that's huge. How many civilian factories was that even? It was definitely worth it, however many it was. It looks like it was a lot. I'm not shocked about that one. Let's get these underway. We got to get those rebuilt. So that looks fine, and I don't think... Oh, we do control these territories. Yeah, we should definitely get those building too then. Perfect. And all of that looks good. Okay, just checking a couple of these other areas here somewhere. Perfect. So now, if we look through this, yeah, we're definitely doing very, very well on that front. Okay. So now I want to continue to buy locations. So I don't think we want to buy CB or Northern Kashmir at this time. Let's check in on that. This is CB. Yeah, not that. And then this is Northern Kashmir. Yeah, we don't want that yet either. Okay. So next up, we can try to buy from Tibet. Let's see if they'll give us this. They did. Beautiful. What about this one? Unwilling to part with the land. They'll come around. So that seems good. We'll continue to tick forward at this point, but we just bought some more land, so that means we need to queue up more factories. Excellent. And this is just a completely repeatable cycle at this point. We'll just buy more land, and then build more factories, and then buy more land as our political power allows. We're gaining 2.3 per day, so that means that we can do an offer of land purchase like every 4.8 days or something like that. It's kind of insane. Slightly under 5 days. So we'll try to buy the Upper Nile. And we got it. Perfect. And we'll just continue to buy up Africa over here. The UK didn't want to get rid of that. Okay, fair enough. So while we're waiting for additional political power to generate here, we can just queue up a couple of factories out over this way. Looks like that African land wasn't very expensive, but there are a couple of locations that we can build factories in. So that looks good. Of course, as our land gets more extensive here, it's going to be more difficult for us to keep track of where we have factories built. But that's fine. That is absolutely a-okay. So now we can try to buy the Blue Nile from the UK, which is right over here. And they gave it to us. Perfect. And we're just going to continue to expand in Africa for now. I'm not too interested in continuing to expand up here at this point. That's going to be fairly expensive, and we'll come back to that later. For now, where I want to expand is definitely Africa. The real question, though, is, what about situations like this? The commune of the Sudan, not Sudan, like Sudan, not like that. No, Sudan, like that. Excellent. So, in situations like this, all they have left is their capital state. So then the question becomes, should we declare war on them? Well, they're in the ally faction, so probably not. They're a puppet of the US. And that's probably not going to change anytime soon. So for now, we can just take over these areas. What is... Oh, that's developing the oil fields out over here. Okay, yeah. We could actually do that. Are there any other locations that we can develop? Let's see. Where's prospect for resources here? As soon as the autosave is over. Here we go. Okay, so... yeah, we can develop this. That's okay. We'll get that going. So that seems fine for now. And if we check in over here, yeah, there's definitely some civilian factories to be built up over this way. Actually, there's quite a number of them. There we go. So, as I was saying, we have situations like this. We're not allowed to declare war, but we also have no way to take over a capital state because we cannot purchase a capital state. So that's a bit of a problem, isn't it? If we want to do a world conquest. Well, maybe we should just ignore it and just leave things as one province states for now. We can come back and conquer them later once we control basically, like once the communist states of America are a one province, it won't matter, right? So, to be honest, I'll probably end the series before we go around conquering all of the one province states, but that's definitely an interesting argument to be made there. So I want to buy the Southern Sahara. They will probably give it to us. Yeah, I wouldn't expect them to value that all that much. We'll buy some desert from Saudi Arabia. And the Soviet Union up over here. Where is this? Ah, okay. And they gave it to us. So this is now an exclave. So that's looking absolutely great. This is going to be from Yugoslavia. Ah, we tried to do this before. Yeah, they were unwilling to part with it last time, too. But the fact that we can do this every, we'll call it 5 days, but it's slightly less than 5 days. The fact that we can do this about every 5 days is insane. Absolutely bonkers how fast we can expand. But we have to make sure not to over-expand, right? That becomes the problem. Let's see if Libya will give us some desert. They did. Fantastic. And while we're waiting for our political power to regenerate, it is, of course, time to replenish some of our civilian factories, because that is very, very necessary. So we'll hop on up over this way, get all of those queued up. That looks good. And we're net positive on our civilian factories right now. So that is absolutely noted. Okay, so next up would be a little bit of space up over here, but the Soviet Union was unwilling to part with this. It's because of the steel and aluminum here, I'm willing to bet. Not that they'd be able to hold this if a war were to break out, but we're not anticipating a war at this time. So let's see what else we can buy from the Soviet Union. That would next be up here. Sure. Excellent. So the Soviet Union accepted that trade, and are there resources up here? No. Okay. That's not necessarily surprising. We should probably take a look at infrastructure. Okay, let's get all of this queued up. And I queued one of those at the bottom, and at first I was thinking, well, maybe I should put these at the bottom, but then we've got all these coastal forts, and no. I want them up at the top. I think that'll be much better. So we can't build in this desert out over here. This is not a place where we can build infrastructure, which is very sad, to be sure. But let's queue up some additional factories, since we made some purchases. And we'll just continue to capitalism at this point. There's absolutely nothing stopping us from capitalisming right off of a cliff, and it'll be great. So at this point, well, specifically the world will be right off of a cliff. There we go. So the Soviet Union gave us more territory up over here. We'll see if the Republic of Syria wants to give us some land. They did. Perfect. So we're expanding extremely rapidly while these guys are just fighting each other and exhausting resources. In the meantime, we're stockpiling weapons. So that's kind of a big deal. We can try to buy Honduras, and let's see if the Mexicans are willing to give us that. They are. Looks good. No problem then. So at this point, I want to check in on infrastructure again. There might be some new infrastructure that needs to be built, and the answer is kinda. There's kinda new infrastructure that needs to be built. There's also some new civilian factories, of course, that will need to be built. So we'll get those on the way. Excellent. Just checking in on some of our areas out over this way. Cool. So that all looks great. We'll continue to work on all of this construction, of course, but we can continue to expand. So next up would be down in Oman. Sure. Let's see if they're willing to give us that. They did. Perfect. South Darfur would be the next on the list. And, yep, that looks absolutely phenomenal. So obviously this list is extensive, and it will continue to be extensive. Specifically, it's going to get longer. As we expand in more areas, we can only buy locations that are either specifically set up to allow us to buy them, such as this, or that are adjacent to our territories. As you can see, we can't buy up over here, but we can buy over here. So that's absolutely fine. So at this point, what is the next on the list? I'm just kind of going from top down at this point, and Trabzon is next on the list. Where is this? Ah, right up over here. Gotcha. Yugoslavia doesn't want to give us that. They don't want to be cut off from all of this territory out over here, and to be honest, I don't blame them. It would be very bad if they gave us this. Bad for them, I mean. So I don't blame them for not wanting to give us that. Fair enough. Next up would be Surgut from the Soviet Union, and they gave us that. Perfect. That's absolutely wonderful. And there's more Soviet Union territory up here that we're going to go after next. I'm wondering if we can get across the... Well, no. This map doesn't go far enough north to see the Bering Strait. That's interesting. But I'm wondering if we're going to be able to get into Alaska up over here. We already have a toehold in the Americas, so this is fine. But it's definitely interesting. Okay, so the Soviet Union gave us that, and this doesn't have any resources either. So that's noted. We have a much harder time getting locations that have resources, that's for sure. The AI seems to prioritize that fairly high, so that looks great. We'll grab Kamchatka, and that'll be absolutely wonderful. Now the question is, now that we hold all of this up here, I think we'd have to hold this peninsula. And I'm not currently seeing an opportunity to purchase that pop up. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. Our next option here on the list is Vladivostok, and they're very likely going to say no to this. Let's give it a go. They gave it to us. Wild. Keep in mind, that's got chromium in it too. It's strategically important and has chromium. So that's absolutely great. Let's queue up some infrastructure in some of these newer locations. So we can do so down over here. Excellent. That all looks good. And then civilian factories in all of these locations. Perfect. because we need to get all of this going. Wonderful. So that's, of course, quite a lot of factories, but we'll just get that underway. But yeah, I'm definitely not seeing a way to cross the cross the Bering Sea. Interesting. I guess it is the Bering Sea, isn't it, now that I think about it? Yeah, so I'm not seeing a way to cross the Bering Sea with purchases. That's fine. We'll just expand from down here. Not a big deal. So that sounds good. Next would be Tokai from American Japan, which is, of course, down over this direction, and we'll see if they'll give it to us. They did. Beautiful. Next is up over in Kenya. SFR Yugoslavia declared war on the Helvetic junta. Okay. Seems kind of spicy. Not really our business, though. So the Republic of Kenya gave us more territory. And is this up in Japan? Yeah, this would be kicking the Communist States of America out of the Japan mainland. Of course, they've got American Japan here. But let's see if they'll give us that. They did. Perfect. So that's absolutely magnificent. Once again, infrastructure. Let's get that queued up in some of these new areas. So we have this down over here. Do we have any territories up over this way that we just took? I don't think so. So we'll next do civilian factories. Gotta keep those civilian factories flowing in, after all, because we're spending them. If we spend too many civilian factories, it's going to take us a very, very long time to rebuild. Our ball is rolling industrially at this point, and we need to keep it rolling. We have momentum, but if we overbuy, we'll lose our momentum. Although it's getting more difficult to lose the momentum at this point, to be honest. So, next up, what are we interested in purchasing? Eritrea. Honestly, yeah, I'm interested in purchasing Eritrea. The Communist States of America isn't interested in selling us Eritrea at this time. Okay, fair enough. Let's try Afghanistan. Perfect. So Afghanistan is now down to being a rump state, and that's absolutely a-okay. We'll just leave them there for now. I wonder if we would be able to... There's no way to diplomatically vassalize in Hoi 4, is there? I think I talked about this at the beginning of this series and looked into it, but I'm 95% certain that there's no way in Hearts of Iron 4 to diplomatically vassalize states like this. Except to bring us in, or to bring them into our faction. Which we kind of can't do. We don't have the national spirit to create factions, and we're not aligned, and we're wanting to remain non-aligned. So that's absolutely a thing. So out over here, we've got some additional territory to buy from Mali. Let's see if they'll give it to us. They're not willing to. Well, we can try down over here. They gave us Gao at least. SFR Yugoslavia declared war on the Tsardom of Bulgaria. This is all SFR Yugoslavia now. That's interesting. What faction are they? They're still part of the Czech Entente. Okay. Noted. Well, that's going to be very interesting indeed. So next up would be Borno from the UK. That's not Borneo. Where is Borno? Oh, it's down here in Africa. I see it. Right down over here. Yeah. Okay. So we'll get that. No problem. That looks great. And next would be Sokoto, which is in that same sort of area. Yeah, we got it. Perfect. Okay, so that's all looking phenomenal at this point. We've expanded significantly. And of course, we need to get our additional buildings queued up. So let's do that in any location where we can. So this is impassable down here. We can't actually do anything there. Right, so we don't have any way to get to our land that we have out over here because this is all impassable desert. And that's a little awkward to be sure, but it's fine. It's absolutely fine. We're not anticipating a need to get there. So we're just going to build civilian factories in all of the places. And if we wanted to absolutely optimize this and get all of the building slots and fully industrialize all of this, we could. But we don't have a reason to. We really, really don't. Things are good enough at this point. So that looks great. This area out over here, we can definitely build in. Excellent. Okay, next up, we'll try to buy Oman. And let's see if we can get that. We got it. Perfect. Next would be the West Midlands from the UK. I mean, that's going to be 10 factories. We'll see if they'll give it to us. They're unwilling. I'm not surprised about that. So Tripolitania from Libya, huh? They don't have very much left, to be honest. But they gave it to us. Not that we can get to it, but they gave it to us. It's interesting that we're able to purchase things that are adjacent to impassable terrain. I don't know that we should be able to be honest. Because our only adjacency to this state here is through this impenetrable border. The Yugoslavian Confederation has declared war on SFR Yugoslavia. Okay. The Czech Entente is maybe going to fall apart. We'll see. So next up is Tunisia, which is, of course, right up over here. We'll take that. Perfect. And then we can try Lancashire. We'll see. They may give it to us. They may not. Unwilling. I'm not surprised about that one. Okay, so next up is infrastructure. We definitely need infrastructure in some of these new areas, although we don't have that many new areas. But I do want to... And also, are we going to be able to buy out over here in Oceania? That's going to be interesting. We'll find out. We might actually have to invade out over that way if we want to do a world conquest. I don't know that we want to, though. We just kind of want to get to the point of being completely and totally unstoppable, I feel like. And are we there? Are we currently completely and totally unstoppable? We're pretty close. We're definitely pretty close, but I want to continue to capitalism for a little bit. We'll try to buy Yorkshire. Unwilling to part with their land. Deeply unsurprised about that. Next up would be Yamalia from the Soviet Union, which is right up over here. Okay. We got it. Cool. So that looks good. There's, of course, a lot of territory here that we can't purchase because the wrong country holds it and they're at war. So that's a bit of an issue right now. So next would be... this. We've tried a number of times to get this. They're unwilling to give it to us for now. Deeply unsurprised by that one. We're starting to get to the point where we have fewer options on this, and that's good. We want to have fewer options here because we'll get to a point eventually where we're just continuously rolling on things that the AI is less willing to give to us. Let's see if we can get Guatemala. Hang on. The Treaty of Sarajevo, actually. The Yugoslavian Confederation was annexed. Okay. So we did get Guatemala. That's perfect. And let's see if it needs any infrastructure. It does. We'll get that going immediately. And no infrastructure up over here needed. Looks good. So now we'll do civilian factories. Make sure that we're keeping up with those. Excellent. Is this area ours? It's hard to remember what we own and what we don't at this point. We own a lot of things. Okay, next up is El Salvador. We got it. Fantastic. Okay, so the Soviet Union is unwilling to part with a lot of this territory here, but this is now deep within our borders. So they might be more willing to part with this exclave now, and there's a lot of good resources there. We would love to get it. Well, that's part of it. And look at those resources. Excellent. So now what we need to do, of course, is we need to build infrastructure, but I'm building civilian factories first for some reason. Hello? There we go. Excellent. So that seems fine for now. Now what I want to do is get that infrastructure built if it's not already. And it is. Hello, Faroe Islands. There we go. We got some infrastructure going anyway. So let's see. Next up would be, yeah, there's more resources here. They gave it to us. Perfect. So yeah, the Soviet Union is willing to give us exclaves. It seems like they're much more willing to give exclaves. So that's absolutely noted. Let's see if they'll give us this. Yep, they will. To be clear, if I was the AI, I would have accepted 0 of these deals. Precisely 0 of them. So, there's that. There's also been huge amounts of civilian factory inflation, I have to point out. That's probably doing some really weird things here. Bulgaria and Livonia signed a white peace. Okay, that's interesting. What I really want is this. Can we ask for that? Unwilling to part with their land. Interesting. Well, it seems to be definitely an RNG component as well. But it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, our tendrils will continue to spread. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Aurelio, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.